What I said that in my presentation is precisely that Domo Elite intends to do that. We have a graphic interface, and in that way, from your sofa and with a remote control or with a wireless keyboard, you can do anything apart from turning on and off the lights and bringing the blinds down. It will always be difficult, I think, for the elderly and especially for people with mild cognitive impairment to use computers. For many elderly people, even the TV remote control is difficult to use, but they always have a son, a daughter, or a cousin who will be able to program that for a couple of hours in an afternoon, and then all interfaces, especially new interfaces, especially the one by Domo Elite, is very simple. I want this to do this at that time of the day. You don't need to have good programming skills as happened in other systems where you had to be able to program in C if you intended to change any of the programs or to program something. I think that are coming close to what you aspire to. However, we need to be able to disseminate those things because these tools do exist. However, there's no information going around about them. We've been working for a number of years with a range of users that goes from a 7-year-old kid, for instance, my son uses them better, to my parents' age. My grandparents did have control system before they died, but the system that we now have are different. The elderly don't have an easy or clear interface. For instance, a remote control or a touch screen or a computer is very often out of their reach. That's why the type of domotics that we use is automated, in the sense that the processes we add to their homes will be automated. For instance, if there's a water leak, automatically the system will cut the water supply and there will be a voice message to warn that person. Or, for instance, if we try to automate a home where we want to see if that elderly person moves or does not move for a number of hours, or if the person has gone into the bathroom and has not gone out, or if he or she has not gone out after 1 or 2 hours, or if the person falls, and if they want to warn somebody else through a remote control or through a medal that they have hanging in their neck or whatever, they don't require any type of an interface. This is not difficult. It's not a domotics that requires being a high-tech freaky. You know that there will always be technology lovers and technology freaks. Many of us have been able to survive thanks to them, so we're glad that they exist. But actually what we think now is that there will be no threshold for the population, not only highly qualified and highly technified people, or neither people who have a high purchasing power. We offer solutions for a public that goes from 7-year-olds to people over 70. I would like to underscore that we offer very simple systems. The first thing we need is to understand what the person's needs are, what he likes and what he's used to doing, because any type of button that can use infrared technologies or other simple things. We're talking about remote controls that have 1 or 2 buttons that can be placed on any surface without any kind of constraint. It's important for that person to understand that if he presses that key, he will access those functions. That's basically what we intend to do with our systems. This is rather a comment than a question. If a few years ago we were to ask in a console forum if an elderly person would use consoles and video games, everyone would have said no, of course not. But after the brain training games and Nintendo DS's and the Wii, we see now people over 60 who are also using this type of games. Couldn't this happen also with domotic systems? Since I was 13, I grew up with video games and with Commodore 64. I've got a Wii at home and a PS3 because I have a young child, but I grew up with video games. The development of many of us, well, we're trying to find user-friendly systems. All of us working in domotics, we are working on the integration of these consoles in the control of domotic systems. My son uses many of domotic controls through his PSP. We have simply opened an IP window, a web server, so that from the console he can master and he can well, order, for instance, the lighting or the temperature in his room and so on. These interfaces are not being designed and developed, but rather being integrated in your daily life, so that, for instance, from your Wii game, well, many of the products that we have work with an IP interface, and if you send a call to a domotic system through IP, you can control and manage your house from your Wii remote control. Is this part of a game? Well, maybe. One part is leisure, one part is comfort, one part is ease of use, and well, we are trying to automate part of the routine that we have to run through when we go into the house or when we leave a house, that I'm not leaving the lights on or the gas on or whatever, because if I leave the lights on, then I will have a bill that isn't just amazing. I think that interfaces are already all been designed, and what's more important now is to integrate all of them, and to have these plug-and-play systems that can be used by all and from all kind of devices. I don't know if you share this view. Actually, yes, we are talking. Well, the first thing that was developed, that we tried to develop, rather, were platforms for mobile telephonies or for PDAs or small electronic devices. What we have always tried to do is to have universal devices that can talk to each other and that can talk to other systems as well, such as remote touch screens or touch remote controls that can manage, for instance, the opening of the door, answering a phone call, or any other activity that you may have in the house, either through Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or any IP protocol controls. You can manage that. We've always tried to develop platforms that are based on IP platforms and Bluetooth. Thank you very much. Before we close the session, we have a final question from Alejandro. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank you for this interesting presentation. Two of the last questions actually sparked this idea on me, and they have to do with user interfaces. I believe that interoperability and plug-and-play are going to be a driver for the development of the domotic market, but I was also surprised about thinking that whether user interfaces cannot be done or designed in a better way, so that people who have small cognitive impairments or mild cognitive impairments or are elderly can be used better. I think that the console example or the video games is a wonderful example. I think that the elderly in Spain have a disability rate that is 6 or 7 times higher than the average population, and many of these disabilities have to do with daily life activities of daily living, and many of them can be supported through domotic devices. I think that when teleassistance spreads and covers that, we will have to have friendly interfaces. Many elderly people now use internet. There are many courses and activities from city councils or from red.es where the elderly learn to use internet and send emails and so on. They're able to use information and communication technologies if they're taught to, and I think that domotics can benefit from that, because this opens up a huge market for them. If you allow me, maybe we should make a distinction here between two parts of domotics. One part is the handling of devices, which can be more or less automated, and the other part would be where domotics have a lot to say, which is in global automation, generating a chain of events where one event leads to the next. This is not simple from a technical point of view, and transforming that in a graphic interface that is easy to use and friendly, user-friendly, has already been done. But we need to understand what the possibilities of domotics are. Very often this goes beyond what a non-expert person could do, and it's not only the elderly but also adults. The first stage of domotics is simple. You can have this metal for emergency situations, or an emergency switch, or turning on the lights, and turning on those lights might lead, for instance, to pulling down the blinds or whatever. Easy interfaces for television is something that does exist. Domo Elite has got one, but we need to make this more popular and more widespread. We simply need to make this known so that people understand and are aware of the existence of these tools. But if we look at the generation of these events that would make the home a smart home, that's something slightly more complex. And let me say that way. I don't want to fool anyone here. These interfaces are simple to use, but you need to understand how far automation in a home can get, because I was discussing this with a customer a few days back. He just wanted to know whether it was raining or not, so that the automatic plant watering system would go off or not. And I said, well, that's not so simple, because if a domotic system tells you that it's been raining for 4 days, but it's only rained nothing, just 4 drops, then your plants will dry off. So the domotic system needs to send the information of not only about the fact that it has rained, so either yes or no, but also the amount of rain that has fallen, the amount of rainfall. So we need to get that far, and that's why I was saying that people who have a certain impairment or who are elderly very often need to find the support of other people from their own family environment to get a little bit further. I'm not talking about finding the support of a specialized technician or an expert, but rather someone who is more familiar with technology nowadays. Thank you very much. It's a pity, but I think it's time to draw the session to a close, because the seminar will continue at 5 o'clock in the parallel sessions. I've been asked to say that headsets, interpreting devices, are to be picked up outside of this room if you need translation in the sessions. And with this, I would like to put an end to this panel discussion on domotics. Thank you very much for your attention, to all of the speakers, and thank you very much to the organizers for the time that they have allocated to us. Thank you.